invited a friend of mine to speak about real estate one day in my junior year. And he started talking about house hacking and buying with really high leverage and good interest rates. I started to think about it, and my mom was super gracious. And my junior year summer, me and her worked out a deal where she would live in one of the units of a triplex, use her W-2 income. I would sell my whole stock portfolio and I'd put down the down payment. So over the summer, I had an internship with the National Science Foundation that I had all of August off. And we bought the house. We painted the whole house before we closed because we were worried about the FHA loan. Now looking
Okay.
back, that's hilarious to me because they could have just canceled and taken away that.
Welcome to the Wild West Real Estate Podcast. And now, here's your host, Mark Hinteman.
Today's guest is a capital raiser, real estate investor, and runs a property management and residential construction company. I'd like to welcome James Faillettaz.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you having me on today.
Hey, I'm glad to have you on. I'm excited, and I'm glad I got the pronunciation of your name correct, or at least close.
Yeah, it was good.
What's the derivation of that? That's not like French, is it?
You know, you're very close. It's from the French part of Switzerland.
Okay.
So technically French, but technically Swiss at the same time.
Oh, cool. What a good combo.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So yeah, let's jump in. Where are you? And just talk about, I guess, how you got in the business, how you got into investing.
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. I do all my investing in St. Paul, and I lived in St. Paul for a while, but grew up in Minneapolis and had to come back to my roots. I had started trading stock at an early age. My grandpa, I was begging him to get me Guitar Hero back in the day, and he got me a couple shares of Activision Blizzard, is the company that makes Guitar Hero, and kind of started my stock journey in about 7th grade.
No way, that's amazing. This was your father or grandfather?
My dad's dad.
Okay, grandfather. Cool. Wow, what a savvy thing to do.
Right? And I wasn't too into it at first, but kept on buying and saving, and ended up losing some money with a graphene company, but making money on Chipotle and Netflix, and ended up selling some of my portfolio to take a gap year, and held on to some of it after I got into college. And throughout college, I thought about investment banking and then academic economics. And I was a co-president of an investment committee, and I invited a friend of mine to speak about real estate one day in my junior year. And he started talking about house hacking and buying with really high leverage and good interest rates. And I started to think about it, and my mom was super gracious. And my junior year summer, me and her worked out a deal where she would live in one of the units of a triplex, use her W-2 income. I would sell my whole stock portfolio and I'd put down the down payment. So over the summer, I had an internship with the National Science Foundation that I had all of August off. And we bought the house. We painted the whole house before we closed because we were worried about the FHA loan. Now looking back, that's hilarious to me because they could have just canceled and taken away that.
Right.
So she lived there, bought the first triplex, and I thought I was going to be helping her, but she was really helping me. And by the time I graduated, I had bought another duplex for myself and my mom to move in post college and kept on kind of house hacking throughout. And then a classmate of mine talked to me about wanting to be in real estate. And eventually we decided, instead of me just giving him advice, he would become an LP, and just started to grow from there.
Cool. That sounds great. Sounds like you had some really amazing mentors, at least compared to me growing up, like a grandfather, and your parents were very, had that investor mindset as opposed to spending mindsets. That's
Uh,
that's great that you had the benefit of growing up in that environment. And so, just for clarification, you and your mom bought that first triplex?
Yeah, so I put the down payment down, and we got the seller to cover closing costs, and she used her W-2 income so we could get a FHA loan.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. And was that a fixer?
It was light
It was
compared to what
light.
we do now, at least. We had to put in some windows, we tiled the bathroom, we put up a wall, but maybe five to $10,000 of rehab. And right now we're kind of targeting a third of our purchase price in rehab costs after we close. Real kind of fixer uppers.
Okay. Yeah. So you're tackling much more substantial rehabs at this
Correct.
point. Okay. Yeah. Maybe talk about a little bit about your progression from there. Have you stayed in the same geographic location and kind of built a scale within that, or have you gone broad to other markets?
We've primarily stayed really within the same zip code.
Same zip code. Okay.
If not, we have two properties in a neighboring zip code now as well. And that was a decision that was primarily based off of ease of property management, because we run our own property management company, and having that economies of scale where you don't have to run around and you can get a lot of properties in one area. And then just being really bullish on the market. Prices are good, and the cash on cash return is pretty good. So we believe in the area as well. We're seeing appreciation like everybody in the last couple of years, but seeing job growth, and we're seeing the city of St. Paul start to spend money in that area on transportation and on community initiatives and subsidization of development projects. So happy where
Well,
we are.
yeah. All right. So you're bullish on the location and you're seeing growth. It's good. That's smart to stay, laser focused on one area and get to know it better than anyone, and maybe know the administrative, like the government people, and you can get things done
Yeah,
if you
it's a
become a
little easier.
player.
So yeah, I find myself not even really having to look through pictures of houses after picture 5 or 6, because I kind of know what it is and can do all the numbers in my head. And interest rates are throwing me off a little bit, but from where I started to where I am now, it's pretty easy to look at a house and just know if it's going to work or not.
Right. How do you bring up interest rates, and that's sort of the bogeyman, like for everybody who invests in real estate nowadays. We were just talking about it before we started. How do you navigate, what's your acquisitions been like recently since interest rates started to spike? And how are you navigating that?
Yeah, so lucky for us, we took on the biggest project that we had taken on to date right before interest rates started rising. So we've really been working on this fiveplex and getting all of the units fixed up. So kind of blessing and a curse. We haven't really had to acquire because we've had things going on,
Right.
but starting to look at it again more recently in the last couple of months, it's definitely harder. I mean, it's harder to make things work. And we're seeing that if we can take some of our cash flow and use it as the down payment, we can try and buy something that's undervalued, put a construction loan on it, and not pull equity out at the end. So we can keep that kind of initial maybe 60% loan to value once the product is finished.
Okay.
But we're still seeing really depressed cash flows.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what kind of leverage, like LTVs, does the market typically allow? Just every market is different. In the markets that I'm in, at least in like a big city like Los Angeles,
Yeah.
you're usually looking at, yeah, maybe you're lucky if you can get 60%.
Yeah. I mean, most of my loans that I've done are construction loans. So we go in, and admittedly, this is my first commercial project. So
Okay.
I've done mostly duplex, triplex, but we go in and we do 80% loan to value.
Okay.
They're financing 80% of the construction cost and 80% of the purchase price. But after construction is done, we're probably sitting around 68 to 70% loan to value.
Okay. And
Uh,
what do you typically do? What's the age of the properties that you're picking up, and what is the extent of your value add?
yeah, so St. Paul is a pretty old city.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay.
and we're picking up buildings anywhere from the 1910s to the 1950s.
Okay.
We're looking for buildings that have not been renovated in 10 to 20 years and have unfinished attics and unfinished basements. So we can both kind of bring up the quality of the kitchens, bathrooms, mainly living rooms, bedrooms, kind of secondary, and add finished square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms in unfinished square spaces.
Yeah, that seems like a great opportunity. And I like that vintage. I buy a lot of that in that sort of range from what, 1910 you said, to 50 to 1950. I guess
Yeah.
in the 40s, at least this is kind of anecdotal, but it seems like in the 40s the 30s and 40s things slowed down. You had the Great Depression,
Mhm.
where there probably wasn't a lot of building during that time, and then also World War II.
Yeah.
And then the boom came in the 50s when the war was over, and in the United States, population surged. Yeah, that's correct. That's when the baby boomers, like,
Yeah. They really started.
right. Okay. There was a lot of household formation after 1945. But yeah, that's a smart, in these types of old houses. And I've always lived in these old vintage houses, mostly like the 20s. But yeah, they always have big attics that are just like, you know, just rafters. There's no finish at all. And if you could make that into a very usable space, an appealing space, what a win. Just new square footage.
Exactly. I mean, in the first commercial building we just bought, the three of the units had really large dens, but they just didn't ever try and convert them. So even by converting three dens into bedrooms there, we added around maybe 900, almost like $10,000 of NOI on a project.
Oh, wow. Great.
Even looking at those, like trying to reconfigure layouts, add bedrooms, but still keep livability. So maybe opening up a kitchen to a living room to make it feel wider, and then closing off a den into a bedroom to add living space, while also making the appeal of the building feel more open and feel a little wider.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And did you say you had so you do property management on your own and you also do residential construction?
Yeah, everything is really to support the investment portfolio. We
Okay.
haven't taken on any third-party property management, and we've taken on really minimal third-party construction just because mostly it's advantageous to work on our own projects.
Right. So you do it's renovation or rehab work as opposed to ground up?
Yeah, we've never gotten into ground up. We've taken things down to the studs before, but we've never put the studs up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Who's on your team? Is it family focused, family based, or
No.
what?
So right now we're shifting down the team a little bit, and we're trying to, because of interest rates, because we don't want to pull cash or pull equity out of the homes and put seconds on them or refinance. Right now we just got rid of our project manager, and it's myself and my property manager who takes care of most of the property management. I have a bookkeeper, and then just a team of people like a lawyer, an accountant, a real estate agent, and then two LPs who are invested in the overall holding company who live out in New York.
Okay.
So it's a
So
pretty small team
it's a
working for cash flow and kind of gearing up to bring on another operations manager. And then I'm really opening up the opportunity to start a fund. Uh,
okay.
that's kind of my main focus right now, is to partner with a development company, use the cash flow to kind of run the operations and start a open real estate private equity fund.
Okay. And your current investors you said you mentioned 2 LPs, maybe
Yep.
out of New York. Are they are they are they friends? Are they related to you? And do they invest in all your deals?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to meet both of them at college.
Okay. Where'd you
Um,
go to school?
I went to a liberal arts school in South Minnesota called St. Olaf.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I've known some people who went there. St. Olaf. Yeah.
Small little college town. Carleton College is on one side of the river, and St. Olaf College is on the other. So I really liked going to school there. But
Okay.
I met one of them. My first LP was just a couple doors down from me in my freshman dorm hall, and my second LP, we just kind of ran into each other around college, and is was roommates with my first LP their junior year when they both got internships out in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're, they have the same investment mindset that you have, and they're letting you take the lead.
Yeah, I think it's a really good balance. One of them is like serial entrepreneur, so he's more kind of focused on vision and culture and really trying to make sure that the intangibles are there. And
Okay, sure.
the second LP is more finance based, really likes the numbers and can kind of help dig in and help look at forecasts and help look at investment deals. So I kind of feel like I have the best of both worlds. And
Right. The visionary and the integrator.
yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Let me see. What would you say has been your biggest challenge in your growth and in your journey?
Yeah, I think one of the things I will say is I had a really great opportunity to take on a decent amount of capital at a really early stage. I was able to raise $350,000 with a triplex and a spreadsheet. I think my journey has really been half getting an education and half building a business. So I've definitely had a lot of lessons and learning along the way. I think the biggest lesson for me is really being concise about what you're trying to do, being concise about what you expect from your tenants, what you expect from your contractors, your subcontractors, your employees. And I think when you can have a vision and really tell people what you want and what you're looking for, things go a lot more as you plan them out to go.
Yeah, you got to communicate your vision and
Yeah,
know what's
it is.
expected. Let
Yeah,
them know what's expected of them.
exactly.
That's hugely important. Yeah, like being specific
Yeah,
on KPIs or whatever way you measure your progress, forward progress.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, this has been good. I don't know if anyone tipped you off to our question round, but if you're game, we can jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's a daily habit that brings you the most benefit?
Daily habit, it's fluctuated a little bit, but I found that when I get to the gym and especially hop in a cold plunge, I'm much more focused and kind of invigorated to either plan out the next day or take on the day. I got in the cold plunge this morning and was, thinking about what was going to happen and then making sure that I felt good for the day.
You're probably doing it the right way. I do a cold plunge almost every day, but I go, it's usually at the end of the day. I jump
Yeah.
in the hot tub and and then we built a pool. So we built a pool maybe 8 years ago, 6 years ago, and it's got a hot tub and a cold plunge at opposite ends of it.
Oh, it's sweet.
And I jump in the hot tub, get just like all the knots, let them diffuse. And then I don't know why I do this, but I'll swim maybe like 10 laps and then jump into the cold plunge as cold as it'll go
Yeah.
and sit in there as long as I possibly can. And then I go shower and I feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing what it can do for hormones and just overall well-being.
Right. See, it's your
Yeah.
Swiss background. Get in the cold plunge. The Nordic habit. Let's see. All right. What's a book you've recommended most over the past year?
I think a book that was really helpful for me was The Gap and the Gain.
The
Uh,
Gap and the Gain? Okay.
I read it a couple months ago and it was actually recommended to me, but it's really about shifting your mindset to try and recognize how you gained from a specific point in time to the present rather than looking at the present and looking at the gap between where you want to be. And it's a very empowering way to think, and it's helped me look at the growth that I've had and also feel good about the growth to come in the future rather than looking at the growth to come in the future as daunting.
That anxiety. Yeah, that's interesting because I was just thinking about that this morning. And I don't know, just sort of wandering thoughts is I was like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm so much more chill nowadays than I was. And I think I was talking to my daughter who's, she's feels like she's got some anxiety and the pressure of everything. And I just was like, oh yeah, well, it's obvious because at this time in my life, I've achieved a lot and I've got a bank account that's pretty decent size. Like, so I just don't sweat. I don't sweat it as much
Yeah.
anymore when I look at my daughter and she's now like 19 years old and everything's in front of her and
Mhm.
but it kind of speaks to what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What was your favorite movie when you were 15?
Oh man. I think it's a tie between I, Robot with Will Smith and
Okay.
Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Right. I don't think I saw iRobot, but I saw Coming to America.
yeah, I thought the kind of futuristic sense of iRobot was really captivating and probably I thought it was coming a lot sooner
Oh, yeah.
than the movie than kind of what's happened. So it was an interesting phenomenon for me there. And coming to America, I liked it as a comedy and kind of a humble story. And I used to really like I still do, but I used to watch old Eddie Murphy movies quite a bit.
Yeah. Wasn't there a wedding scene in Coming to America?
Yeah, I
I,
think
I
maybe two of them.
we did. I work on Family Guy, and
Yeah.
we did a version of that wedding scene,
Oh, that's funny.
and I can't remember the context of it, but I remember we watched it like 10 times, and then we're like, I guess maybe they were going to a wedding. The
Okay.
Griffins were going to a wedding.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up on YouTube.
Yeah. I've now forgotten more Family Guy stuff than I actually remember. What was your most awkward year?
That's a good question. I think, I was always a really free-spirited kid and really always had fun. So elementary school, middle school, high school, I really loved life, and I still do love life. There's a little bit more anxiety now, but I never really had awkward years. When some did in middle school, I just kind of embraced it. And I was lucky to be able to do that. I took a gap year between high school and college and lived all over the world and studied. And I started to actually like learning. I was, average student in high school, and when I got into college and saw that people were so much more prepared than I was, and that, there was a much wider world than my inner city kind of existence had been used to at that point.
Yeah.
I think I was a little awkward when I was easing in. So like freshman year was definitely a bit of an awkward time for myself.
Yeah. All right. Couple more. What decade created the greatest music?
Well, admittedly, I haven't been around for too long. I'm 26, so I've never, on road trips with my dad, I've taken it past 1990 a little bit, but very seldom. So I want to say 90s or the 2000s. I'm pretty big into old school 90s 2000s hip hop.
Okay. Yeah, there was a good era for that. Definitely. Is there a high school friend you want to say hello to?
Yeah, I have a couple in mind, but one that pops up in particular, my friend Bailey is getting married pretty soon, and he was my first play date in kindergarten, and we've been friends ever since. And
No way.
in the party at the wedding. So shout out to Bailey Smith and soon to be Lydia Smith.
Oh, nice. That's cool. That's great. And lastly, how can listeners reach out to you?
I would say the best way to reach out to me is by looking at my company website or my email. It's a bit of a mouthful. I named it when I was in the bottom of a college classroom in a economics dorm, but it's on my hat and I can kind of spell it out. It's Verus Praedium Holding, and that's Verus Praedium Holding @gmail.com.
Is that Latin? I took Latin for
That's old Latin.
multiple years. What's the translation?
It's real estate or the good home. So real estate holdings or the good home holdings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's great. Well, thanks. This has been fun, James. And yeah, thanks for joining and sharing your experience and wisdom.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, Mark,
Of
and
course.
look forward to hearing others share their stories.
All right. Thanks. Have a
Thank
good one.
You
All right.
too.
See you, James.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Wild West Real Estate Show. If you like what we're attempting to do here, please subscribe so we can continue sharing these with you. And if you want to check out our website, it's quantumcapitalinc.com. You'll find podcast episodes as well as multifamily properties we're looking at and how you could potentially participate. Look forward to seeing you guys soon on the Wild West Real Estate Show.